Welcome to the deep dive.
Yeah.
You know, in a world where your phone just serves up this endless stream of articles, headlines, trending topics, it really feels like we're drowning in information sometimes,
Absolutely.
yet kind of starving for actual understanding.
Yeah.
Every single day, there's just this tidal wave of data, opinions, facts. And the real challenge, I think, is sorting out what's genuinely valuable in all that noise.
It's overwhelming.
So today, we're going on a pretty crucial journey, a deep dive into what we're calling pop science and manufactured truths.
Yeah.
We really want to unpack how these fascinating, often complex scientific ideas, once they leave the lab or the actual research paper, how they can get so misinterpreted,
Right.
distorted even, and ultimately become just widespread misinformation. It's kind of a look at how these concepts can go really wrong, even if they started from a good place, scientifically speaking.
That's exactly it. And our mission today, well, it's to go beyond just pointing fingers or saying that's wrong. We want to peel back the layers, uncover the actual mechanisms behind these distortions. So we're talking everything from, the media's tendency to oversimplify things
Sure.
to the surprisingly sneaky influence of algorithmic bias shaping what you see online.
Yeah, that's a big one.
And even, maybe surprisingly, some pretty significant cracks within the academic system itself. The goal, really, is to equip you, the listener, with better tools to help you become a more critical, more discerning consumer of information in this, well, incredibly noisy digital world.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's use a classic example, one that's just everywhere. Have you ever been scrolling, maybe late at night, and you see an article pop up that just confidently says, people who swear a lot are smarter?
Oh, yeah, that one.
You've seen it, right? Maybe a friend shared it, or maybe if you tend to use some colorful language yourself, you might have secretly hoped it was true. It sounds pretty good, doesn't it?
It definitely appeals to a certain kind of wishful thinking.
Yeah, like a quick shortcut to genius just by dropping a few choice words.
Exactly. But what's really fascinating is just how far that popular idea is from where it actually started, scientifically, which was, well, pretty mundane.
Okay, so where did it come from?
Right, so this didn't come from some big brain scan study or a huge IQ test project. It actually stemmed from a pretty modest 2015 study published in a journal called Language Sciences.
Language sciences, okay.
And its real focus was on something the researchers called taboo word fluency. Basically, it was a vocabulary test.
A vocabulary test, not intelligence.
Not directly, no. What the study actually found was pretty simple. Participants who could list more swear words in a minute. They also tended to be able to list more animal names or more words starting with F in that same minute.
Ah, okay.
So in short, people with a bigger vocabulary overall, generally speaking, also tend to know more swear words. That's it.
So it's just a correlation. More words equals more swear words.
Precisely. A correlation between general vocabulary size and taboo word vocabulary size. No IQ tests were involved, no brain scans, no direct measures of intelligence or cognitive function. The study just sort of hinted at a link between having a broad lexicon and being able to access specific parts of it quickly.
And that's where the pop science magic happens, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That single, really nuanced, finding this correlation, it gets plucked out of context and totally transformed by, countless blogs, online articles.
Yeah.
Overnight, it's not just a linguistic observation anymore.
Nope.
It explodes into this definitive, often breathless statement, swearing means you're smarter, or cussing is a sign of genius.
Yeah, genius trait. I've seen that one.
Right. It goes from this specific qualified research finding to what I like to call misinformation with lipstick.
Yeah, that's good.
Dressed up to be catchy, sound authoritative, totally irresistible. It's amazing how fast that oversimplification just becomes belief.
It really is. The nuance, the caveats, the limits of the study, gone.
So if one, relatively small specific study can get twisted like that and it's just widely accepted, how does this kind of distortion get so big, so pervasive?
Well, it often starts innocently enough, right? Genuine curiosity. Someone wants to understand some new science.
Yeah.
But then as that finding moves through the digital ecosystem, especially when blogs and media outlets are prioritizing clicks and shares above everything else.
Nuance is the first casualty.
Exactly. Nuance goes right out the window. Complex ideas with all their necessary caveats and limitations, they get shaved down, whittled down into these catchy clickbait headlines.
Or sound bites.
Or sound bites, yeah. Things that fit neatly into a tweet or a TikTok. It's almost like the medium itself kind of fights against complexity.
Like Twitter's character limit just isn't built for scientific nuance.
Precisely. And it's not just the medium, it's also how our brains work, isn't it? Our cognitive load is just immense these days. We're constantly bombarded. So, a simple, punchy fact. Much easier to grab onto, to remember, to share, than some complex finding with all its ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, makes sense.
And what's really interesting is the life cycle of that distortion. Once it gets into that digital bloodstream, as you called it,
Yeah.
it doesn't just stay there. It mutates. It gets distilled further, simplified even more, turned into memes, quick tweets, little videos.
Right.
It stops being just a bad headline or a simple mistake. It becomes something people really believe. And then they share it, they defend it, and once that belief takes root, especially in certain groups, it's incredibly hard to dislodge.
Which leads to this idea of informational sex, right?
Exactly. That's a term the sources bring up. These aren't just groups with shared interests. They're communities, often online, that don't just discuss these distorted ideas. They build their whole identity, their whole view of truth around them. They become these self-reinforcing echo chambers where the bad information isn't just accepted, it's like foundational. And think about it. Belonging is such a core human need. These groups offer that sense of community, of shared truth.
And the sources give examples of this.
Oh, yeah. A whole range. Some might seem fringe, but they've definitely gained traction. You've got flat earthers, right? Their whole worldview denies basic physics. Then there are anti-vaxxers whose beliefs, despite overwhelming scientific agreement, lead them to reject vaccines.
Right. Very prominent.
Or even things like the idea that eggs are somehow worse than cigarettes for you.
I've heard that one.
Yeah. Despite the lack of really solid evidence for such a strong claim, or people who think natural selection is just over for humans.
Well,
The common thread in all of these is that these powerful, deeply felt beliefs, the ones driving actions in communities, they often start from poorly understood or just plain distorted science. The appeal of being in the group that knows the real truth is just incredibly powerful.
it almost sounds like there's a plan behind it sometimes. But you're saying it's often more systemic.
Often, yeah. Not necessarily some shadowy figure pulling strings. Often the biggest culprit isn't a person, it's a system. Which brings us to something huge and often invisible. Algorithmic bias.
Ah, yes.
The algorithms.
A massive contributor to why this stuff becomes so widespread and so sticky online.
Okay, so let's break that down. What are social media platforms, search engines? What are they actually designed to do?
That's the crucial question, isn't it? From a business standpoint, their main goal isn't really to give you the most accurate information.
Not a truth, but
Engagement. Their aim is much simpler and way more effective for their bottom line. Show you the most engaging content.
engaging meaning. What clicks, what gets shared.
Exactly. What
Or-
makes you angry, curious, happy? What makes you stop scrolling? They measure dwell time, how long you look at something, shareability, will you send it to a friend, will you comment?
These metrics often have very little connection to whether the information is actually correct. It's all about emotional reaction, click-through rates.
Which means, okay, let's take your example. If you're a night owl, you swear a bit, and you see that article, Night Owls Who Cuss Are Secret Geniuses, and you click it. The algorithm sees that. It logs that engagement. User like this.
Bingo.
And then,
Just shows you more stuff like that.
precisely,
Yeah.
it doesn't stop to check if the premise is flawed or if the research was totally misrepresented. It just knows you clicked, you stayed, maybe you even shared it.
So it creates this bubble around you.
Exactly. And it's more than just reflecting your interest. It's a feedback loop, a powerful, self-reinforcing one.
Okay.
The algorithm doesn't just show you what you already believe. It actively shapes and hardens those beliefs.
Because the more you engage with certain kinds of information, true or false, the more the algorithm feeds you similar stuff. It reinforces it. Sometimes it even helps create the belief in the first place, making it feel like it's common knowledge, like it's undeniable. It taps right into our confirmation bias.
Making it really hard to see anything different.
Incredibly hard to break out of those echo chambers we build or that are built around us.
Okay, so that's pop media, the algorithms.
Yeah.
That's maybe frustrating, but maybe not totally shocking anymore. But what about the places we should trust? Like academia, research.
Right.
We think of peer-reviewed journals, rigorous methods. That's supposed to be the gold standard, the ultimate barrier against bad science, isn't it?
And that is absolutely the intention. And honestly, for the vast majority of research, that system works pretty well. Peer review is meant to be that crucial gatekeeper.
Yeah.
Experts in the field scrutinize a paper, the methods, findings, conclusions before it gets published. It's supposed to ensure validity. It's science's self-correction mechanism.
Yeah, you mentioned cracks.
Yeah. The current system, well, it's developed some significant flaws, almost just from the sheer volume of research being published now.
Too much science.
Kind of. The number of papers submitted globally has just exploded. It's overwhelming the system. So many peer reviewers, believe it or not, aren't always deep subject matter experts on every single paper they review.
Really?
Yeah, they might be improving papers slightly outside their specific niche, which means sometimes papers don't get that super rigorous deep dive scrutiny needed to catch maybe subtle flaws in the methods or conclusions that stretch the data too far.
And there's pressure too, right? Publish or perish.
Huge pressure. Researchers need to publish frequently, which can sometimes mean speed over absolute thoroughness, and it just puts an immense burden on the reviewers, so the system is struggling under its own weight, in a way.
So connect the dots for us. What happens then?
Well, what happens is deeply concerning. A flawed paper, maybe one with shaky stats or conclusions that go way beyond the data, it might actually get published.
Slips through the cracks.
Slips through. And once it's officially published, it becomes citation gold.
Meaning?
Other researchers, maybe under the same pressures or maybe just unaware of the flaws in that original paper, they cite it. They build their own research on top of it.
Yeah. Wow.
It creates this chain reaction. Imagine a weak study suggesting some nutrient boosts brain power gets published. Then other researchers cite that study as evidence when they research the nutrient's effect on memory, even if the first study was weak.
So you end up building on a shaky foundation.
Exactly. You can end up with this whole body of research that looks solid on the surface, but it's actually built on something flimsy underneath. It's like a scientific house of cards.
A scientific house of cards. That's unsettling.
It is. And nobody wants to be the one to point out the bottom card might be weak.
So what does this all mean for us? You know, the everyday person trying to make sense of things. We're surrounded by information, tons of it, but it feels like we're starving for actual truth.
It's a huge paradox of our time, isn't it? Look, pop science, when it's done right, it's amazing. It can be this vital bridge between complex academic work and the public, making knowledge accessible, engaging.
It can be good.
It can be, but only if it's handled with real care, with healthy skepticism, and just a relentless obsession with accuracy. It's a really delicate balance.
And that's where we, the listeners, come in, right?
Yeah.
We have the power here.
Absolutely. You have the power to be more discerning.
We need to ask better questions.
Mm.
When you see some science news or some surprising fact hits your feed, don't just swallow it whole. Pause. Ask yourself some critical things.
Like what?
Like, who actually wrote this? Are they a journalist, a scientist, a blogger, someone with an obvious agenda?
Important.
Did they even read the actual study or just the press release? That happens a lot.
A lot.
Are they making conclusions that seem way bigger than what the data likely supports? Is it oversimplified?
Good one.
Crucially, is this causation or just correlation? Huge difference.
Massive difference. People mix those up constantly.
Is this just clickbait dressed up in a lab coat?
Haha, yeah. Does it look legit but feel off?
And maybe the toughest one. Am I clicking this or believing this just because it confirms something I already want to believe?
Oof. That's the confirmation bias check.
Yeah.
Really important.
Yep.
You know, what's really key here is understanding the real nature of science. It's not about these perfectly neat, catchy headlines or shocking breakthroughs every week.
It's messier.
It's much messier. It's more diligent, more humble, ongoing. It's about constantly asking, okay, what do we actually know right now? How do we know it? What's the evidence? And critically, could we be wrong?
Yeah.
Are there other ways to explain this? What are the limits here? Yeah. It's this process of questioning, reevaluating, refining, always being open to new data.
Absolutely. So the next time you come across some surprising fact that seems to be a little too neat or too shocking, take that extra second.
Pause.
Pause. Don't just think about what it's saying, but really consider how that piece of information got to you. What journey did it take?
From the lab to your screen.
Exactly. And what interests, whether it's clicks, algorithms, or, even your own biases might be influencing how it's presented.
Great advice.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep those critical thinking gears turning. Keep asking questions. and never stop being curious about the world.